right, we've taken a seat here in the EA Business Center here at Gamescom. We're just getting into the groove of things, and it's already my second appointment with Ken this morning. I was at the RPG breakfast of Reckoning, I guess.
Influencers breakfast.
Influencers.
Way too cool.
With Ken and Ray and Greg from Bioware and Eugene from Mythic. So a lot of big names there. And could you tell us a little bit about, because I understand that you left the industry and then you came back. Could you tell us a little bit about what was in your mind why did you want to come back to the industry?
Well, when I finished Oblivion, I believed I had done everything that could ever be done in role-playing games. That's because I'm an idiot. But of course, I wanted to be a deadbeat again. And I spent, 4 months being a deadbeat, doing a lot of travel. And then Brian Reynolds and a bunch of other people at Big Huge Games, old friends from live-action role-playing, said, "Say, we're doing a role-playing game." And I admit, I was a cheap date. I wanted to get involved. We got involved with THQ. We developed a really charming game which will never see the light of day, he says tragically. But the good thing is that we managed to hook up with with 38 Studios, who just happened to have R.A. Salvatore and Todd McFarlane, who are not slouches at what they do. And they had a great leader in Kurt, who would be like your tank in any good, MMO thing. A man with pure heart and indestructible and a lot of energy. And that's how I got seduced into it. A great opportunity, why not? And also, I always wanted to do a game that had delicious combat in it. And it just wasn't possible in like the PC-based games of the old days. And then I said, okay, this is a great opportunity. Todd McFarlane, I wonder if he'll understand anything about animation and character design and things like that, which turned out to be the important currency of a really good combat system. I didn't know anything about that stuff. Didn't know about action games. Don't like action games because they don't have enough story in them for me. They're rails, levels that you go through, puzzle solving. I don't want to do that. I wanted to play open world games. And so that's how you get a combat kind of action where the action is optional, but too much fun not to do.
So I'm gonna have to rewind you there, because you sort of caught my attention with that game that we'll never get to see. Is there anything you can say about it, and what made it special, and why are you sad that it's not coming out?
I'm sad that it's not coming out because I thought it was a brilliant idea, and no, I won't tell you about it because there's a non-zero chance that someday I'll be able to reprise its basic concepts. But I have not often not had a game published. In the beginning when I was doing paper games, I never had anything turned down or anything like that because I am a genius. And it was kind of a bitter pill to know that something would disappear. And we spent 2 years working on it, and it was wonderful in every way. But, I'm an adult. I can move on.
So would you say that there's any ideas, any concepts that you sort of penned out for that game that you will bring to Reckoning?
Yes. Oh, I mean, a lot of the basic work that we did for combat, let's see, there were many things that were totally inappropriate that we were able to throw away. But we built profoundly on the production and tools and things like that. But in general, no, the story and themes, again, I hate to break your heart, but I can't tell you why what I wanted to do was so brilliant. Because I can't do it now. So,
all right. So, you have a little bit of a different take on the narrative than, say, the guys from Bioware, and I thought that was interesting because when you came to 38 Studios and you mentioned this, you had R.A. Salvatore. You already created the world. It was already a world there for you to sort of make your game in. Was that something of a relief for you that, oh, this is already established, I can move straight in?
It was a relief in the sense that I had to get over my own pride, thinking that I'm one of the greatest setting and theme designers of all time, and having the bitter pill of seeing R.A. do something a little bit better than I can do. So on one hand, no, I want to make my own stuff, and I say, uh-oh, he did a really great thing. So now, and it is great to be able to begin immediately on making great story and character. I think that all I care about really at the end of the day is quality, not whether it's my deathless art that's being celebrated. So I was very, very grateful to RA for not sucking.
But I also understand like the sort of the specifics of Reckoning weren't really locked down. So you designed the actual story for that game.
Absolutely. It wasn't like we didn't have a lot of opportunity to do incredibly dangerous, creative, destructive, terrifying things for production and things like that. But you're right. I'm different from BioWare. I do think that theme and setting are the key for me. That's, I'm not as interested. I don't want to define the plot and characters so much that it crimps the player's self-expression. But in this particular case, there were a lot of great opportunities. I essentially saw my opportunities and then I celebrated them.
So I think of course we have the Elder Scrolls game. They always start out in sort of a similar fashion. But Reckoning also starts out in a sort of very specific fashion. You're being resurrected. So how did that idea come about, and sort of what does that sort of bring to the narrative?
That's what's so freaking cool about it. Not only are you being resurrected, you're the only person in history that's ever been resurrected. The first. And at the same time, when people find out that you've been resurrected, I think they're interested. They think that might be valuable. So that what a wonderful premise. And I think the player can find a lot. And yet it's so understated. We don't pound on that. So one of the delicious things in any story for me is that you, the player, are discovering the story. You're not having a guy droning on and on and on and on as a narrator about what's cool. So it's discoverable. That's what I liked about that.
Is that something you can sort of choose to boast about, that you're resurrected, and can you choose to play down that part, or?
No, in fact, no. That if you did, then I would be overselling it. People in the world comment on it, and then that creates, that I want that to be an internal issue for you, wondering about, am I a good man or a bad man, or where did I come from, or what's going on here? And also, we'll call it a franchise mystery. It's a mystery that unfolds through many, many, many products and an MMO. So, yeah, that's the other thing. That comes from working with Bestsoft. I like franchise mysteries. Things where the player senses there's a story there and wonders what that story is. And then I want, as a designer, to have 4 mutually exclusive but perfectly plausible explanations, so that, and that's at least 4, and I want the players to make up 10 others, so that the player is always saying, I know what the truth is, when there are so many possible truths. That's what's great about the real world, is there's a lot of mystery and a lot of different ways to looking at it.
Because as far as I understand it, this is going to be sort of a set before the MMO that comes out later. So the player will sort of create their own history for the MMO that they'll experience later on.
That is so delicious, and my fantasy for for sequels and things like that is to exploit the living shit out of that, and have a sense not only about your present but your past and your future. Like, you'll see in the setting hints of what's coming, and we won't tell you what it is, and we'll deny under oath when you say, I bet this is really what's going to happen. You say, no, we are not going to tell you what's happening. So it's telling all that mysterious story, which the real world is all about, what's really going on.
I think that's something you have in common with BioWare as well. The fact that they're branching out to different various mediums, and the games are connected and all of that. And it just, to me, it's like, okay, maybe you had a narrative designer who did work, one guy did an entire game before, but now it's like a team of 10 people who has to do it to keep everything in check and make sure that there are no contradictions or no one goes out of bounds anywhere.
Well, you were watching at the Influencers Breakfast. I wanted to start a fight. I wanted a war with the Canadians, but I couldn't do it. Essentially, we start off with different emphasis, but our underpinnings, our knowledge from doing role-playing games is such a similar set that we make different choices, but we're profoundly aware of our particular medium, and we've all been doing this an awful long time.
And would you also say, like, that this is really, because that's something that sort of what the Bioware, what Ray said, and that this is the beginning. Like this is the beginning of RPGs properly. Is that something you would agree with?
I wouldn't agree with it until it was said by Ray. Ray's got an enlightened perspective that I sometimes fail to have because I'm always in the moment as a designer. You know, I only care about what I'm working on at the moment. But he's absolutely right. This is the beginning in the sense that this is not a mature industry. I mean, I love our content, but we really don't have production that allows us to do perfection. There's so many problems in trying to get the player to play the living shit out of a game. So he's absolutely right. This is the dawn of the new age. Every time is the dawn of the new age, where I'm just saying, thank God I got my term paper done and it didn't suck. You know, that's all I care about.
And your term paper is due in February?
Yes, on the 10th in Europe. So that's...
You're feeling that sort of you're at a stage where you feel comfortable releasing, putting a release date on it.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, one of the things I've always wanted to do is to have enough time to really polish a game. We're at the point of where we're polishing. I'm really happy with the current builds, which means that we have time to make them even better. And boy, does that make my little heart thump with joy. So.
These days, sort of downloadable content and sort of experiencing the game outside of the packaged good is something that's always so huge, and is something that's very important because, you know, the publisher want to do everything to keep the game off the used game shelf, right? What are your plans for DLC, and how will that sort of work into the World of Reckoning? I
actually can't talk about that in detail because I'm far too important a designer to understand all that stuff. I'm there working currently with other guys on the other DLCs, but I'm not either not at liberty to say or don't know enough detail about what all that stuff is going to be like. You'll just have to wait patiently until really smart and responsible people can answer those questions.
Sounds like big plans.
Yeah. Well, yeah, enough to terrify me, but yes, yeah.
But is it, as a designer, is it nice to sort of not leave a game when you're done with it, to have some way of expanding that experience? Because usually the last DLC comes out like a year after the game is out, and you can sort of see what players enjoy. And
I actually know my perspective on that is I like to see that the DLC are opportunities for other designers to become egomaniacs and to have control. That's really the great training ground for ownership, and I don't want to have too much of it would be wrong for me to damage the growth of a great designer, because those are the great opportunities. A little bit of freedom, go nuts, you know, and not be tampered with giant egomaniacs like me. That's just my perspective on it. I guess like to watch the process, but yeah, it's not. Yeah, I don't want to own that.
I guess it's kind of terrifying for a publisher to put an open world RPG into the hands of an inexperienced designer as well.
Again, they can't be inexperienced. They're guys who have already earned their chops in building the game. But the thing is, leadership, responsibility, team building, all that stuff is about, you know, doing the honest work. And I used to be a teacher, you know, like a high school teacher, and I really felt that my job as a high school teacher was when students forgot about me and could do the stuff on their own. And that's my sense about how I like development to work. I want to encourage them to get into as much trouble as they can possibly get into and to learn from that experience.
So I guess the only fitting way to end this interview is to ask if you've postponed retirement forever now, or?
I'm afraid that that's true for some value of true. Again, if my wife hears this, I'm in a sack of shit, is what I'm saying. But
cut it out.
No. All I'm saying is I'm having so much fun that I don't think I can be seduced into retiring completely.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.